What's going on, everybody? Alex here, Elevate a Lifestyle Lab. We've got a new episode dropping today. Our guest jumping on with us today, his name is Ken Kladouris. He's the author of a book called Get There, Chart Your Course to Financial Abundance and Live the Life You Desire. He followed that up with an online course called Stillness to Success. I brought Ken on to talk to us about the book, talk to us about the course, and to really dive deep into how meditation changed his life. It happened about 4 or 5 years ago for him. Ever since then, he's excelled even further in his life, and we really dive deep into what happened, how meditation really changed his life for the better, and how he got to this point where he's at today. We go into a ton of topics, guys. We cover what his course is about, what his book's about. I highly recommend you go check him out. I'll include the link to his social media and the link to his pages to access his course and his book in the show notes. Please go check him out. Hit the like button, follow him. He lives an awesome life, and I love his outlook on meditation and how it impacts you throughout your life. His course is amazing, guys. It really breaks down the important things that you really need to do to go live an elevated lifestyle. He goes into core values. He goes into finding your why, setting goals, and actually knocking them out. So go check him out, guys. Ken Kladouris. I'll include everything in the show notes. Don't forget, subscribe, share this with your friends, and we'll catch you next episode. Thanks, guys. All right, guys. Welcome to Elevated Podcast. We got an awesome guest on for you today. His name is Ken Kladouris. How are we doing today, Ken?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time and hopping on with me. The whole podcast, Elevated Lifestyle Lab, I try to bring on people that are doing elevated stuff in their life. I heard your story, and I heard the route you're going down now. So I wanted to bring you on, talk a little bit about your story and how you got to where you are now. So if you could, for our listeners, just maybe give us a quick backstory on how you started your career, and we'll kind of work our way up to now.
Perfect. Yeah. I'd say that, like most people, I had an idea of what I wanted to do, what society had told me I wanted to do. So, undergraduate degree in finance, MBA, concentration in finance, and was a financial advisor for a decade. And in the middle there, I realized that I could do more with my life. I wasn't really having the fulfilled sense that I thought I should be having. And I got to a position where I felt like I was stuck. And every day was kind of like replay of the day before, and it wasn't really getting anywhere. And I was like, okay, currently this is like my upper limit. This is where like I plateau. And, I kind of got comfortable with that. And it wasn't until I had what I call my epiphany moment, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, where, I realized like I could accomplish so much more. And I was literally living so far below my means, it wasn't funny. And so the last 5 years has been me elevating my lifestyle and really getting to the next level in all aspects of my life.
Yeah, that's great. And because, I've heard your story too, how you hit that plateau as you refer to it. Where you, I know you had mentioned it, you were kind of unfulfilled. Were you not happy? Were you get into a place of being depressed, or were you like, I've got the financial success and it's just, I'm not really happy? Is that kind of where you were?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it, people say money doesn't buy you happiness. And while that is somewhat true, it's not exactly true. But, I got to a level where I was making really good money.
Yeah.
And it was no longer, right. I wasn't trying to get to the next thing. Anything that I was going to do past that was for myself, basically. Like I wanted to achieve it. And I think that's the biggest difference, right? It wasn't like I was struggling in any aspect. I mean, I was happy. I was having a lot of fun, but it just wasn't meaningful anymore.
Sure. I can definitely relate to that. So to kind of walk me through, we'll dive into that kind of epiphany moment that you had when you were on vacation in the Cayman Islands. Kind of walk me through that, because that's it's interesting.
Yeah. So you really did your homework. Good job. So yeah, I was on vacation, Cayman Islands. Again, back then I was taking vacations here and there, but I was one of those people that if I was on vacation, I still structured my day, right? And I was like, okay, I'm going here, here, and here, kind of planned it all out. And vacations usually weren't just sit down and relax. So Cayman Islands, one of the days, I think it was like 3 or 4 days in, we had nothing to do all day. And it was just like, wow, this is kind of nice, So we're sitting out on the patio, just having coffee and listening to the waves crash. And it was like completely unexpected, but I was sitting there, and like one of the waves it felt like just washed away all of my limiting beliefs, all my doubt, and kind of all of the constraints I put on my life kind of all just left me. And I was sitting there like completely free and feeling the ability to accomplish anything I wanted was able and possible for me to do in that moment. And it was a very liberating, freeing experience for me, and changed my life ever since.
That's crazy. And how long was that moment? Was it just like a 20 minutes and you kind of came out of it like, holy shit, what just happened?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even, in the moment, I didn't even recognize like how profound of an experience it was.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, it kind of hit me and I was like, oh, this is really nice. Like, I feel really good, like, and I didn't have anything to do all day. So I was like, continue my coffee, just having conversation. And like I said, I felt incredible. And I was like, oh my God, like I can tap into this whenever I need to. Like, this could be, a great way to live and really give me the energy and the spark and the fire to push to the next level in life. So
Yeah, that's great. You had mentioned it kind of washed away all your limiting beliefs, and I've kind of been hung up on this word beliefs, right? So that was kind of part of my paradigm shift when I started this company a few years back. I had kids about 6 years ago, and it kind of, it was like a paradigm shift, right? So I started kind of questioning everything because I realized that where I was mostly set up on beliefs that weren't necessarily mine, right? It's like as you're being raised, the people you surround yourself with, you think you have these your own beliefs until something like what happened to you, or you have kind of an awakening. And I just started questioning kind of everything. Like all my beliefs were wrapped around like growing up with my parents or my surroundings. So it really started like getting me down the rabbit hole of beliefs. Like, does this belief serve me? Right? People say, oh, I can't get up that early to go to the gym, or oh no, I can't do journaling. But these are all beliefs, right? So I've been down this rabbit hole of like, do these beliefs serve you, right? If you're saying this over and over and over, like once you put perspective on it and you look back on it. So did you have that kind of awakening? Like when you say it washed away your limiting beliefs, did you start kind of going down the list of like, well, maybe I can do more. Like I don't have to just do the wealth advisor anymore. Like I could do this. Like that's just something I've been telling myself that's not really serving me anymore.
I mean, I wish I could tell you yes. Like that would sound incredible, right? No, I think a better way to describe it would be that basically any belief that I had that was limiting or constraining in an instant disappeared without me consciously being aware of it or doing something to have it happen.
Right.
So I was just left there completely, I'll say
Free.
vulnerable and free.
Yeah.
Right. And I was just like, oh my God, this feels incredible. Like if I could feel like this, like now, like when I look back at it, I was like, oh my God, if I could get into that state or in that feeling all the time, I can accomplish so much more. So it wasn't until after having that experience, looking back, that I was like, okay, I have some work to do, because obviously the thoughts and beliefs that I carry with me every day aren't in alignment with how I felt in that moment. So I need to put in the work to get me from where I am to where I was in that moment so that I can live that way all the time.
Yeah. And how did that send you down the rabbit hole of meditation? Were you kind of aware of like doing that would help, being in your industry of people stressed out and you hear that, or were you just completely oblivious and you just Googled when you got home, like how to get in that flow state, and that kind of led you down that rabbit hole? How did you wind up with meditation?
Yeah. No, there's no straight lines.
Sure.
I guess that's why I created a course, right? So people could have a straight line. For me, I just started doing all of the personal development courses I could. So whether it was sales training, life coaching, um, physical fitness, meditation, spiritualness, reading basically everything I could get my hands on, and finding out what really works for me and what didn't. So there's a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, same here.
so
Just go down the rabbit hole of all the podcasts and books, and just like whatever's gonna stick, you kind of attach to that.
right.
What was your first kind of so you did a lot of homework when you got home, and that set you on the path of trying to figure out how to get back into that state. Did you go down different type of breath works? There's several different times or types of meditation. Did you trial and error to find something that you really could go to?
Um, yeah, over time, I did go through a lot of different things. Um, but at the end of the day, I guess my most profound experience was, and I do it every year now, a week of silence.
Oh
So I
yeah,
spend 5 days in silence and obviously don't speak or read or listen to music or do anything like that. It's really just you with yourself. And so that for me is the most transformational experience a person can go through.
sure.
And most people think they can't do it. And they're like, oh, I couldn't imagine, right? I can't even spend 5 minutes in quiet, no less, 5 days. Um, but for me, that was, again, the most transformational experience. But obviously, you build up to that, right? So, what I was doing was meditations, basically just normal mantra based meditations. And that's what we teach as well. Because really, of all the meditations, right, you're trying to connect with yourself and really slip into what they call the gap, which is the space between thoughts. And a mantra based meditation practice is one of the easiest ways to do that, as opposed to like a guided meditation or something that, which is good for other things, but just to get you that stillness and time in the silent and in the gap, right? That mantra based meditation is going to be the most profound for you.
Yeah. And how does it work with the mantra? I'm aware of how it works. You're chanting the mantra as you're doing the meditation, but are you focusing on breath at the same time as doing that, or you're just strictly repeating the mantra and just trying to zone out everything else?
Yeah, there's no focus on anything.
Nothing, right?
So you don't even really like the mantra itself is silent in your head.
Okay.
So even that changes the way you hear it through the practice. So really, it's really just an easy, natural flow of the mantra coming, in and out of your consciousness silently in your head.
Okay, gotcha. And what did you start with? Because it's a big jump from a 20-minute meditation to a 5-day silent retreat. So did you figured out that just sitting in silence was starting to benefit you for those short amount of times, and you gradually graduate up to that?
Um, Again, no, like say no. Um, so the 20 minutes for me, I did it 20 minutes twice a day, and immediately I saw benefits. And before I was meditating, I had a lot of like OCD, a lot of stress. I felt like the need to control everything, and it was well, I dealt with it the best I could. I didn't actually think it was a problem until I no longer had it, and then I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I lived like that. But yeah, with those 20 minutes, it was evident that there was a change occurring in just the way I went through the day, the interactions I was having with people, the way I felt. And so, talking with the team that I was learning with then, I was like, what is, the next step? And they were like, oh, prolonged silence is where you want to go. And so I just signed up and was like, we'll see how this works out. Like, if I can do 20 minutes twice a day, I can do 5 days. Um, and so the first time was a little nerve wracking. I won't lie. You're like, you show up and you're like, what is going to happen? Am I joining a cult? Is my business going to be okay? Like, I respond to emails within like 20 minutes. Like, what are people going to think? Turning off everything. It almost caused a little anxiety just signing up and getting there.
Sure.
But, once you get, for me, the first 3 days were probably the loudest environment I've ever been in, which is funny to say because it was silent.
Right.
But my brain never stopped. It just thought after thought just bombarded me for 3 days. And after that, I could really settle into that silence and into that stillness. And I mean, at day 5, I was like, oh, I think I'm going to stay in like a little longer. And so
Cool.
I did an extra like half a day because I was like, wasn't ready to come out.
Yeah.
And then even then, I didn't turn my phone on for like 12 more hours.
Oh, good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
How's the setting when you go to a retreat like that? Like it's in some type of a house or an apartment or whatever the case may be, but I know it's a group setting. So how does that work with like eating and drinking? And I know you don't interact with people, but what's kind of the setup for that?
Yeah. So basically, they're at retreat centers or hotels, and the all the meals, food, and everything is kind of set up for you. So you just show up first day. They give you an orientation of kind of here's what you're going to do, here's how it works, and from there, like you have your windows to eat. Maybe there's like a yoga session in the morning. some type of guided meditation in the afternoon, things like that. And then otherwise you're kind of free to do what it is that you want to do. But at the end of the day, again, right, it's time in silence. So whether you're walking, um, doing different things. I mean, last year, fun enough, like for 2 hours, I picked up trash and like on trail. I don't know why, but it was like, I felt like it was what I was like, walked on the trail. I was like, this is really dirty trail. I think I'll just clean it. And, so that's what I did. But yeah, you can do whatever you really feel like. But again, the first time anybody does it, I would say like you have to be prepared for a lot of thoughts to come up, because all of those thoughts that you've been kind of holding down and repressing for however many years, they come to the surface when you have nothing else to be a stimulus, and you have to deal with them as they come up. And so I think that's why it's such a transformational experience, is because all of these thoughts you didn't even realize are occurring you become consciously aware of them, and you have to deal with it. And just that process of obviously not giving yourself a stimulus to stay busy, and then dealing with the thoughts that come up, is what a very freeing experience.
Yeah, that's I see it all around, which I'm sure you do too. Is it's people don't know how to be bored these days, right? With the cell phone in the pocket, with TV on, Netflix. I mean, it's amazing how much you do to avoid thinking those thoughts or feeling those feelings, right? It's crazy. I was listening to Naval Ravikant, another financial guy, and he was, the first time I heard about kind of being quiet or stillness, is his meditation per se would be don't do anything or talk or anything for 60 minutes a day. And he's saying the same thing you are, is, for the first 20, 30 minutes or however long, you're just going to have a flood of all these crazy thoughts. Like you thought you were ADHD before, it's going to increase 10 times, right? Like you're just going to be flooded. But over time, which obviously you've learned, is you start getting rid of a lot of that trash thoughts, right? Like you start weeding through all that junk and really narrowing down to stuff that could possibly help you.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm assuming that's why you started your course, which you just started an online course called Stillness to Greatness.
Stillness to success, but greatness works too.
Yeah, stillness to success. Tell me a little bit about it. I know you just created it over this past year. Tell me a little more about that.
Yeah, so again, financial advisor background. So as I was kind of having my own transformation, the people that I was engaging with, whether it be clients, referral sources, or things like that, were always asking me like, hey, what's different? Like, you seem different. I follow you on social. You're having a lot of fun. You seem to be enjoying life way more than you were before. Like, what are you doing? And so I kind of give them like the highlights. And as people kept asking, I was like, you know what? I'll just create a course, because when I signed up or started to like figure out what to do, right, I didn't have anybody that created like a step-by-step guide on how to do what I did, right? It was like a lot of trial and error and cost a lot of money for me to do it. And I was like, oh, I'll just create this course and put in the things that I found that were really, transformational, things that really moved the needle, things that made a huge difference, not like little tweaks, but big change. And so that was what, how the course started. And I just wrote down everything that I was doing on a daily basis, from meditation to, finding core values and creating a vision statement for yourself and getting real clear on your goals, and then breaking that all down into, a journal that you can do on a daily basis, where you kind of visualize your day and create that type of momentum where you easily and effortlessly move towards your goals on a daily basis.
Awesome. How long is the course?
So content wise, it's about 20 hours.
Okay.
But it's a lot of homework.
Yeah.
Because I don't define what success is, because only you know what success means to you. It might be greatness for you, since you said that earlier. So I don't define success. I can't tell you what your core values are. I can't tell you what your vision is for your life. I can't tell you what makes you happy. So I have just like a list of questions to elicit those answers for you, so that you can create kind of a life plan for yourself and know, like, this is what's important. This isn't. This is what I need to bring more of into my life. This is what I got to, stop doing as much. And the stillness aspect really quiets down your mind, so that when we get to those questions, because you've been practicing your meditations, you can actually hear the answers to those questions, right? So many people don't trust their gut, if you will, and will overthink things and get like lost in logic. And the answers to those questions are really subtle. So that's why the meditation has to start with that, so that you can start to quiet the noise on the outside and really understand like who you are as an individual. And then you'll get those answers. And then as you do it every day and you read like, okay, this is my vision statement, these are my goals, these are my core values, am I living in alignment with all of these? And if you are, right, you'll naturally move forward. And if you're not, like, you can course correct even easier. And so that's the whole process.
No, it's great. It's it's interesting with like listing out your core values or listing out your goals or listing out like your purpose or your why. Most people have zero idea what any of that means, right? Like that's what kind of started me when I started this whole podcast and everything about that. Like I was listening to podcasts and just hearing the questions that probably are on your questionnaire to, define what your values are. It's like, people really don't think about that or define like what your real goals are. Not like, oh, I want to win the lottery, but like, what do you want what do you want to do? Like, do you have a lot of struggle with people even understanding like what their values are, or how do I even think of a goal if I have no idea? Because I get that so often. It's like, I don't know what to do. I'm stuck in this job. I don't have any time to do anything on the side. I'm not happy, but I want to do more, but I don't know what. Like, what do you do with people? Or if they just say, I just want to be happy. Like, what do you tell for the people like that?
Well, I mean, so everybody has an excuse of why they can or can't do something.
Yeah.
But specifically for happy, again, kind of like that, I wouldn't define what happy is for somebody. So I would just ask the person, okay, what does happiness look like to you? Right. And then that's what those questions in the course do. And then we're also rolling out coaching to help people that need a little bit more support on a group and individual level. Because to your point, right, most people don't know. And even in the course where it's right, I'll do it yourself, like here's the questions and the prompts, people still get lost and overthink everything. So to really help, that's why we're rolling out this group coaching and individual coaching, so that we can elicit right those specific answers. Because I found out when I was in finance, and you'd be like, oh, what are your financial goals? People are like, oh, I don't want to be poor, or I just want to be rich, or I want to be a millionaire. And you're like, okay, like we got to be more specific than that.
Yeah.
And on the stillness to success side, I feel like it's even harder for people because we're talking about their whole life. And I feel like a lot of people, once they hit societal goals, kind of lose touch with what goals are. Right. And then you're like, okay, you can still have goals. So you really have to walk them through that whole process and give them the space and the comfort of knowing like they're not going to be judged for whatever it is that they want in their life. And then to help them, create some momentum and start moving forward.
Yeah, I like your approach on creating the goals and then kind of starting. I know you mentioned that you like to set like up to a 1-year goal and then kind of backtrack and to kind of line up your year to make sure you're heading in that direction. What's some good pointers for somebody that's looking to set these big goals? I want to change the world. I want to do this. You try to reel them back in. Let's focus on the next 12 months. What are we going to do now?
Well, I'm sure you have huge goals as well. I know I do, but I don't try to plan for those, because there's so many things that could change between now and 10 years from now or 20 years. If I just think back about 10 years ago, I'm a different person now than I was then, right? Like my goals wouldn't even be the same. So while it's great to have those big, lofty, like earth moving, I'm going to change the world goals, right? It's more of like a vision of how you want to live your life. And those are great. But we want to get down to things that you can use to build to that. Right. And people, and I'll hold myself to this too. I did this too. If I think too far in advance or far out, I'm like, oh, I got my 5-year goal. Like I get lost in all the steps. I'm like, ooh, what should I do next? And you kind of get lost. But when it comes to my 1-year goals, I know what I have to do. It's really a question of, am I going to do the work or not? And so with that, every year, right, January 1st, I write down everything I want to achieve in that year. And I read it every day until the year's done. And as the year progresses, right, it gets bigger. My 5-year goals get bigger, things like that. But I always hit my 1-year goals because I look at them every day. I read them and I'm moving towards them. So, I just got back from a vacation that was incredible. And I'd been looking at this hotel for about 4 years. And it was one of those like bucket list trips. And, I was like, okay, if I achieve this, this, and this, I will allow myself to take that trip. And, the first quarter of this year, like, was incredible. And so I was like, okay, we're going, like, let's go. And it was
Nice.
well worth it. And, I want people to have that type of success where they're taking those bucket list trips, every year or how often they need to or can, right? Like, if you're hitting your goals and you want to live life, like, at the end of the day, having those stories and those memories and those experiences and actually living is the important thing. So like that's makes all the work worth it.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah.
And do you explain to the students that join the coursework, how important it is to really, if you want to get somewhere where you're not today, that's going to advance you, you really have to change your habits, rituals, your routines. Like those really have to be like a new foundation. Like you kind of have to wash away all the old habits and routine,
Yeah.
maybe not all of them, but a good majority of them. What's kind of your process of explaining to them, like, this is going to take some work, but you have to, consistency is really the winner here, right? If you do it once a day, it's just not going to work. Every day, it's going to make a huge difference. How do you kind of break that down for people?
Yeah. I guess it depends on the goal and what we're talking about specifically.
I guess more with like the meditation, right? Because like that's like a one that you have to have a routine around, and the stillness, right? Like, how do you break those down for them?
Well, so I call meditation a practice, right? And people practice every day. So, everybody thinks that you're going to meditate once and you're going to have this great experience, and they start to judge it or they don't have the stillness. It's like, look, this is a thing that it's kind of like going to the gym, right? You don't go to the gym once and get results, right? I've been going to the gym for like 6 months and I still don't have any results. I'm like, but that's a side point. But yeah, so it's just, you got to get in that routine of doing it every day. Because if you're like, oh, I'm only going to meditate once a week, like you're going to do it once and you're never going to do it again if you ever do it, right? So building that muscle memory and that habit is going to be the most important thing. And then past that, once you get in that habit of meditation and quieting your mind and having that stillness, everything else starts to change. Like I truly believe no matter your circumstance, when you find your stillness, like your whole life changes. And not because like somebody told you to, but because you just start to realize who you are as a person and start to live more authentically and more in alignment. And that's a natural process that occurs by just spending time with yourself. So when people tell me like, oh, what's the key to success? Or what's this? Or how do I have better relationships? I'm like, well, it all starts and ends with you. So you better be a better person. Best way I know to be a better person is spend time with yourself, meditate for 20 minutes twice a day. It's 40 minutes. It's not that long. And you won't even recognize yourself.
Yeah, it's a trip. And do you ever go into meditation? I'll just give you a quick background on kind of what I played around with. When I first started the podcast about 2 or 3 years ago, I heard Wim Hof, his the breathwork guy, ice cold plunge guy. So for the first second episode we did for the podcast, we did 30 days. We're going to do the breathwork every day. We're going to report back. We're going to see what it is. And that's kind of where my paradigm shift happened. Like that's where exactly what you're saying, like it opens up another door that you never knew that was there. I call it now the cheat code because you can use it in so many different things, whether you're stressed out or, you're bad mood. And I kind of started playing around with it because I feel like when I'm in that state, I am super creative, right? Like anything that I'm kind of focusing on, it just takes it to a whole nother level of ideas and all positive things. So I sometimes I'll go into it with like a purpose, right? Like, oh, I'm thinking of this cool content idea, or I'm thinking of whatever I'm going into, but I kind of preload that going into the breath work. Do you ever, I know with your mantra, you kind of don't think about anything, but think about everything probably at the same time, but do you ever go into it kind of like on a guided purpose? Like you're trying to maybe solve a problem, or you're trying to like purposefully get out of like a depressed feeling, or do you ever go into like it guided that way, or for a purpose, or just to get everything quiet?
Yeah. So, to me, those are two different meditations.
Sure.
So my mantra meditation is kind of my stillness, quiet time by myself, but there really isn't any intention or judgment around it, right? It's really just my 20 minutes of whatever comes up in stillness. Those other like if I'm trying to solve a problem or I need inspiration or whatever, like I could use a guided meditation for that. So that's why I would keep those separate. Sure. But I have found, so when I was writing my book, I would write after I meditated, right? So I would clear my mind, and I got in a habit on a daily basis, right? Meditate, do my morning routine, and I would jump right into writing. And what I found was, because I was just came out of meditation, like my brain was firing a little bit better than normal. I was a little bit more creative, and I could get into that flow of writing faster. And things would just kind of flow out of me. And so creating that habit of getting those most important things done first, kind of after my morning routine and meditation, to me really solves a lot of those problems of creative block and things like that, because you're just not in a place where you're limited like that. You're more expansive coming out of a meditation.
Yeah, for sure. I call it the game, right? It's the game of brain chemistry, because that's, that if you can kind of nail it down, I call it the hack of life, right? Because when you know that you can get into these spaces, I mean, it really just expands everything exponentially. It's really cool on how it works.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, we're rolling out this coaching program, and we've just spent I did, and one of the coaches I'm going to bring onto the team, we spent the last month really working on really creating those cheat codes, and we're eliciting everything that could be holding somebody back, best ways to clear them. I mean, we're really taking this to the next level to help people, take it to the next level and have that success they're wanting faster. And then we're using that meditation more as a daily like refresh, if you will, and not the clearing. And then those weekly, or the week in silence, as like a big reset of like, step out, get out of the game for a minute, get new perspective, and then get back into life. Yeah. So I think we're really going to help people have exponential growth here in the short time.
No, it's great. And I think a lot of people do need the one-on-one coaching, almost like accountability partner, just to like make sure they're doing it. I think it's such a need right now, because, you can find everything on YouTube, but people just don't do it because they don't have somebody accountable there. They don't have somebody teaching them how to do it correctly. And I was reading a little bit on the course, just the description about it, and it says that you try to walk the students through some type of a breath work before going into it. What do you recommend, or what do you practice if you do breath work? What do you like to do?
Yes, I mean, so in the course, we just teach people how to use their breath to become more centered, right? And we usually use the breath to be more, I mean, not diligence, not the word, but to stop one big action and then move into the next, right? To be more deliberate. Yeah. So to create, right, that physical stop and start before going into the program, because I don't want people taking their whole day with them into the course, right? So it's like, okay, you got to hard stop the day, have dedicated time to do this. So let's just take 2 minutes, breathe a certain way, right? Create that change, box breathing, different things like that, to get you ready for the course, so you can have the best and most useful amount of time in it. So,
no, that's great.
But yeah, no, we don't go into a ton of the breath work part of it, like YouTube, or there's other professionals that do that. We really just teach people like, okay, do this breathing exercise, take 2 minutes, and then go do the course, just to make sure, again, that they're 100% present in what they're doing in the course.
No, it's huge. I mean, it's been studied so much, of even, like 10 big deep breaths. I mean, it really just will reset your body, right? It's so fascinating. People just think like, God, no, I don't need to breathe. Like they're always like so against it until you try it. And it's like, holy shit, man, this is a cheat code. It works.
Right. And I don't know if you read the word. I don't know if you've read the book Breath.
I've listened to a little bit on audiobook. It's James Nestor, right? Is that him?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, just listening to that, I was like, okay, there's a lot to this, right? Not even like just the breath work, just breath in general is overlooked by so many people, and it's so fundamental to everything that we do.
No, it's huge. Yeah, because I started doing a lot of ultra marathon running this past few years, and all the breath work and all that stuff, because it helps with recovery. It helps with during the race. It helps. And even listening to him, he goes into such detail of, breathing through your nose, or breathing, all the different types and how it works physiologically with your body. And it's super fascinating, man. It's really, really good stuff.
You running ultras, huh?
Yeah, it's kind of what got this whole elevated thing started about 2 or 3 years ago. I don't know if you heard of David Goggins. I read his book or listened to it on audio, and it got me fired up. So I just hit the pavement running, and that's kind of, I was going to get back to kind of the parallels I had mentioned before we hopped on the air, as because I know I've heard you talk about how, after you were on the islands, you kind of had the shift, the energy shift. And then, it took a while for you to do all your homework and to learn like actually how to get back into that place. But then I heard you talk about how you went from just not being a wealth advisor, but now you picked up sailing, you picked up writing a book, you picked up a course all at the same time. And I find it super interesting because parallel to my experience with it, I told you I was doing the Wim Hof breath work, and one of the sessions I was doing, I kind of went into it guided. I had just started doing running at that point, and I had a visual of feeding all these people on Thanksgiving, right? It was kind of this snippet that I felt, and I was in such a deep place that I came to, when it was done, tears were running down my face, and similar feeling of probably how you felt in the Cayman Islands. Like, it was just like a new me. Like, I felt like the same thing you said, like I can do so much more. Like my limiting beliefs are limiting me from doing what I really feel like I could, right? So similar concept of like, from that year, I ended up getting into ultra running. I did you do a 5-day silent retreat. I did a 6-day ultra marathon run. So I ran for 6 days. We ended up feeding 65,000 people on Thanksgiving. I turned Elevated into an actual vitamin supplement company. I went, and I always had this dream of being a professional golfer. I started playing the minor league golf around here. But the point of that is that the problem with a lot of people is they just never start, right? And I got to the point where I was like, I'm just going to just start throwing shit at the board of stuff I want to do, and let's see what happens, right? So I started trying to play golf, found out real quick, if I'm not doing that 10 hours a day, I have no business being out there. But it's the fact that I can look back and say, no, I tried that. I went out there. I know where I sit at that. And you just keep pushing forward. So go into what you had did, and I think that's what a lot of people do, is like, it doesn't have to be, sailing boats or racing boats or running ultra marathons. Like, everybody has their own dream or goals that they want to do. But I think it's inspiring and motivating to hear, like your story. Maybe walk us through how, I know I just said it, but walk us through kind of what led up to, you going from being a wealth advisor to now, in the long term, you're just going to be helping people. And that's kind of what brought me full circle, is I found that helping people was what put a spark in my heart. So that kind of changed everything. So kind of give me your lead up to that, because I feel like it's paralleled similar.
Yeah, I would say it's very similar, other than I don't know how you run ultra, so good job for you. Like, I don't think I could do that. Yeah. But I guess I could try at some point if I wanted to. Yeah. So no one comment or send me anything that if I just tried, I could do it. I know, just no interest in doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think for so many people, like kind of as you said, like they have these goals that they want to achieve, or they have that book in them that they want to write, stories they want to, stories they want to share, but they never get started because they get just lost in the weeds of daily noise. So for me, when I got back, obviously first thing was really figuring out how to get back into that space and get that clarity back. And so once I'd gotten, mental stillness, then it was like, okay, now it's on to the next things, right? So I decided I wanted to learn how to sail. So I'd always been a power boater, but there's sailboats here in the harbor, and I'm like, they're kind of fun. Like, I'll learn. So I did that, started taking classes in sailing, had a book in my head that I wanted to write. So I started writing. And at that time I was working at a different company, and me and my business partner had been talking about branching off and creating our own firm. And so I did that at the same time as well. So it was like, okay, I sailed, I think it was 240 hours the first year I sailed.
Nice.
Was a lot. Wrote the book it took me 9 months to write the book, and then about 9 months to edit it. So got that done. And then within, I think it was 6 months, my partner and I created our own firm, and we're off and running. All at the same time while running the business. And we actually niched down from doing all financial planning and, wealth management to really focusing on 1031 exchanges, real estate, and helping those investors. So we niched down in our business on that, came out with the book, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun and got it all done. Everybody's like, how did you do that? I'm like, I don't know. I just did it. Like, it's not that hard if you just do it every day.
Yeah.
Things just build.
Sure.
And like now, again, but not an ultra. But I was like, I felt like during COVID, I got a little bit out of physical shape because nothing to do, right? So, for that accountability, I got a personal trainer, for whatever 6 months now, I've been working out with them, and it's like, oh, I'm starting to see the results, feeling good. Creating the course, probably going to be buying a piece of real estate here in the next 6 months. So got a lot of stuff going on still. And then, doing the coaching as well. Like that was just a natural progression of people needing help and like, okay, how do we add more value? Right. So, between the group coaching and the one-on-one, like we're really trying to create a company and a platform for people that, no matter where they are in their life, like if they know they can do better, to help them find that stillness, find that clarity, and really take the action to move forward and really go out there and make a difference.
What was the kind of the switch, or possibly just gradually built up to it? But for helping people, how did you come to the conclusion like that's more of like where you get a lot of fulfillment from? Like I find it interesting that a lot of people that have these paradigm shifts or that practice meditation or yoga or do a lot of breath work, majority more than the people that don't, they come to the conclusion like they want to help others, whatever craft they do. How did you kind of come about that?
Well, I would say that I was helping people before with wealth management.
Sure.
And so, because that's truly what I felt like I was going to be helping people, right, create the financial stability in life that they wanted so that they could live in abundance. Come to find out, that's probably really not what happens, but that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that got rich because they're a financial advisor. So with that, when we were niching down our practice into the 1031 exchange side, that's where I really felt that I was making a difference in the way that our clients were living their life, right? We took them from owning assets directly and managing themselves and kind of all the headache that comes with that to deferring all their tax, getting into a better asset, and just getting paid every month without doing anything. And to see the lifestyle change that happened for people, was really, I was like, okay, now I'm making a difference again. And so with that, it was kind of like a natural thing for me to be like, okay, now because, 80-20 rule, right? Like that's where I was getting the biggest impact, making the most amount of money, and making a big difference. I'm like, okay, here, like, let's just do this. And then the coaching, because I was already coaching people on the finance stuff, was just a natural thing of like, let me teach people how to actually start this race, if you will, right? Like to learn how to become a better person for themselves, which will lead them to make more money, which will put them in a better financial position to live life, right? So it was just like, I was kind of at the finish line, if you will, with like people that are already wealthy. And I look at the courses and things I have now as really not the starting line, but it's really to help people build that wealth. Sure. And again, that's why I don't define success, because it's different for everybody. And I learned that just because on the wealth side, like I could meet a client, they're like, oh my God, I'm so poor, I have $1 million in the bank, right? Whereas somebody else I'd be talking to, I'd be like, oh my God, my goal is to have $1 million. Right. So I don't want to define what success is for people. Sure. But that's kind of how it happened. It was just a natural transmutation of what I was doing here. Let me help people make more money and go from there.
Yeah. And I like how you relate the stillness to success to, it's not just meditation, and you explain how it can really wash over your rest of your life by practicing these different habits and rituals, routines that you talk about. Because, if you were just preaching meditation, it might not be as attractive, but if the way you explain it is this is kind of the key to jumpstarting what you want in life. Like that. I like that approach on that.
Well, I don't know if you follow me on Instagram, but I live a very fun lifestyle. Yeah. And it's not free. So the way I get to do all the things that I get to do, the way I get to, give back to charity, I've never fed somebody like myself, but like I fund that type of stuff. Like the way I get to do that is because of money. And, I don't have to have, or people don't need to have negative beliefs around money. Like the more money that I make, the more people I get to help. And, I'll side note on that is like, I think it was 3 years ago now. What year was that? Yeah, I think it was 3 years ago. I went to a Make-A-Wish gala, and it was the first time that I was able to fund a wish. And cool. So for those that don't know, like basically one of the wish kids, like you literally pay for their entire wish. And so to have that experience and then to hear from the families of other Wish kids that were at the gala and like their families, it was like, oh my God, like this changes the lives of so many people, not just the kid, but like the whole family and like their community. And it's like, it's touching. You're like, wow, this is worth it. This is why I do what I do. And since then I've done granted a wish every year. And, it's something that's really meaningful to me in the way I give back. But, that's, again, everybody has a cause that's important to them. And if I can help you make more money and have more success in your life, that's going to have a ripple effect in your community, in your causes, and eventually will change the world.
Absolutely. For sure. Well, we kind of grazed over of your book. So tell me a little bit, did the book come before the course, or kind of, I guess at the same time you were working on them, right?
No, the book came first.
Okay.
I had no intention of creating a course 5 years ago when I was writing the book, 6. The book was just one of those books that, everybody says they have a book in them that they want to write. You might have one in you too.
For sure.
So literally when I was having my meditations and my stillness, it's like, I want to write that book. And so it is pre-stillness. So there's no like meditation talk in it or anything like that. Because at that time I was still a little hesitant to even talk about it. Right. Being in the finance world is very conservative. I was like, ooh, can I talk about meditation? Like, what is this going to look like? Now I just don't even care. But then I did. So the book is kind of similar, right? But it's a little bit more on the finance twist of, right, creating that same thing, create your vision for your life, know what you want. So many people when it comes to finance goals have no idea what they want or why, right? Like there's no emotional attachment to pick a number, like no one cares. But if you're like, oh, I want to have $5 million because it's going to allow me to, retire, spend time with my grandkids, pay for their college, help my family. Like, okay, now we have some motivation and some like passion behind that goal, to make you actually save the money and do the work. And so it does that. Then it talks just about compounding interest and creating a, balance sheet for yourself. And then it has a little spending challenge in it where really you just kind of write down everything you spend money on. And before you spend the money, you write it down. And you're like, am I going to do this or not? Is it moving me towards my goal of saving or not? Which when I did it, I'll tell you what, I hated spending money at that point because I was like, I don't want to have to write this stuff down. Like, yeah. And like my bills went to nothing. So it does that. And then just stories of clients that, with a little bit of effort and a little habit, were able to, save, $50,000 or retire, change their strategy a little bit to create that life that they wanted to live. So and that's why it's called Get There, right? It's like wherever you want to get, like, I want to help you get there.
I want to get you there. Yeah. You made an analogy on, I heard you speaking on another one, how, somebody you knew was wanting to save $50,000 and they were just kind of hesitant. They weren't doing it. And I think this would kind of go across goal setting and across the board for anything else you want to do. And you just told the person, just open up the account, put $100 in there. Let's start there. Super simple. You're not going to put $5,000 a month. You're not going to let's just do $100. And then the visual of seeing that, right? Just like that baby steps of progress, which a lot of people still don't grasp that. Like you just inch forward every day, every single day. And the compounding effect of that is going to get you a lot further, right? Just same with you writing the book, with you doing the course, like, okay, let me get the name of the book. Okay, that was day one. Okay, how many pages am I going for? That, like, just those incremental, but doing it, right? Like that's the most important part. Like just do it.
Right. I mean, from the book, like I said, and I guess it comes down to like meditation too, right? If you create that daily habit of writing or spending time in stillness or running or whatever it is, right? Like it builds, and so, and then especially on the money thing, like opening the accounts, I think is the hardest part because, for that person and, others, if you like woke up this morning, like, oh, for whatever, I got my tax return coming in, like I should do something with this money, put it in an account. Right. But if your account's not open, you're like, oh, well, I don't have to like do all this work. Like, I don't, it'd be fine. And then you wait a month and all of a sudden, like, I don't know, you decided to buy a new bag or something, right? And like the money's gone. And you're like, next time I'll save it. Right. But if the account was open, you would have just transferred it that day and you wouldn't have missed it. So I think that is the hardest part, is just like, again, opening the account or, writing a book. Like I actually physically hand wrote it. So I just got a
Oh
whole bunch of legal
wow.
pads. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's how I think that way, and I can scribble and like make notes and get all creative with it.
Yeah.
Um, so it literally was buying all of those, and then next thing I know, like 5 pages were down, and it was 30, and I was like, okay, done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just get the starting the what is like people talk about like moving a car that's been stalled, right? Like when you try to start moving it, it takes a lot of effort, but once the car starts rolling, it's kind of easy to keep it rolling.
Yeah.
It's the same thing here, right? The hardest part is starting.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like to explain to people too, like really anything that you're starting in the beginning, whether you're saving for your future, whether you're working out, trying to get in shape, or whether you're trying to write a book, it's just to get it, like you're saying, get it started, start with that base, and then, like you said, it just makes everything easier, right? Like
Yeah.
whatever case may be, it just really makes it make sense a lot better.
Yeah. Well, and especially if you can get like an accountability partner or a training partner or something, like for me, that's one of those missing links that really makes a difference, because you're probably going to hold yourself to your word and do what you need to do if somebody else is counting on it.
Mm-hmm.
And even like, right, it's just running with that next person, and like it'll help you keep your pace up, things like that. So
Yeah, for sure.
getting that accountability partner for me is like a major benefit.
Yeah, it helps. It helps a
Yeah.
lot for sure. Well, walk me through. I know you mentioned a little bit about your routines. I know you meditate twice a day. Let me hear your morning routine. And do you have like a pre-bed routine that you go through?
Yeah. Yes to both. So morning routine is, wake up, wash my face, meditate. And then I have like a journaling routine, which comes with the course as well. I give people access to my journal, which is like a little bit of gratitude, some goals for the day, my goals for the year, my vision for the entire year, plus outlook on longer term. And then I write my day, how I want it to unfold. And then I visualize my specific day unfolding with everything that I need to happen. And then I also write like one thing that I want to attract in the day that'll help me move forward on my goals. So that's my morning. And then in the end of the day, I kind of cut energy with the day that people have kind of associated with, things like that. And then just kind of recapitulate my day and say, okay, like this is this and that, and just let everything go. And then it's off to bed. So.
And what about you looking at your cell phone when you wake up? Or are you on it when you go to sleep, or that thing's off, right?
Yeah, my phone's not on. Well, obviously, so if I'm meditating, journaling, all of those things not on. So I'd say for the first hour and a half I'm awake, it's not on.
Yeah.
And it's nowhere near me.
That's so crucial, man. It's so hard for people to not do that. But and I caught myself in a group like a year or two ago. I found myself like, whether it's jealousy or whether you're just looking at things on Instagram or whatever, first thing in the morning, it just puts you down a spiral path of emotional thoughts that you're like, why the hell am I thinking about this or that? And, listening and doing my more homework and listen to podcasts and listen to people like yourself. I mean, it's such a huge distraction. Really, like how you start your day is just really going to spread, the rest of the day. And I like how you talk about how you write down one thing that you want to visualize, because that's a fascinating thing about like a lot of the stuff I've been learning with like neurology and being able to visualize what you want to see and truly visualize it. Like deep inside your brain doesn't really, like if you're feeling the emotion, right? Like if you're visualizing that you want to do something later in the afternoon and you feel yourself doing that, your brain doesn't know the difference that you're actually doing it or whether you're just thinking about doing it. And it kind of like imprints onto that to where, you can call it you're attracting it throughout the day, or you're more aware of it because you're thinking about it. But I think that's so crucial to the visualization is such a key part to, I think, to what you want to bring into your life.
Yep. And then I'd say kind of to your point of like, you see it because you're aware of it. Like that's, I would say, one of the keys to my success is just knowing what I'm looking for, so that when it appears in the day, right, subconsciously I notice it, and then it brings it to my conscious awareness, and then I can go act on it.
Yeah.
And I can tell you like every major shift that I've had was because of that, right? Of like, oh, I need XYZ. The next day XYZ appears, and everybody's like, oh, how'd that happen? I'm like, well, because I talked about it with myself and I knew I was looking for it, right? It's kind of like when people talk about, the easiest example is like buying a new car, right? And you see the car everywhere. Like that's what I do with my goals. I just see them everywhere because I know what I'm looking for.
Yeah, yeah, it's huge. Which that's called the reticular activator, I think. Is that what that's
Yep.
called, right? Like it's,
Yep.
and I heard you talking about this on another one also, but that's what a lot of people have a problem with, right? Is they're not thinking of anything positive, more or less, and it's just all negative thoughts, right? Like they're thinking of, like I've heard you say, people know what they don't want, right? Like they know
Yeah.
plenty of what they don't want, and most of the time that's what they're getting. Like they don't like arguing, they don't like confrontation, they don't like whatever it is, and then what do you think is going to happen that day? Exactly what you're thinking
Yep.
about.
Right.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, that's why I'm like kind of rolling out this new idea of like seize the second. And the whole idea is, right, the opportunities are everywhere for you to seize the second and have the life you want. You just have to be aware of it and be willing to take the action.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're trying to teach people, right? Is slow down, create that mental stillness so that you can see the things around you that are for your benefit, and then know whether to act or not based on whether it's in alignment with your values and your vision. Right.
Yeah.
So you see it and act. And if you do that, like nothing can stop you.
Yeah, for sure. And give me a little glimpse into what the coaching program's gonna look like. Is it gonna be where you can do it for a month, you could do it for a year, you can have an accountability coach to work with? How is it gonna be structured?
Yeah. So the group coaching will be just ongoing on a monthly basis, a little bit of accountability and some training. And then the one-on-one is going to be just a 3-month, really intensive, where we go through everything around your career to start and clear all of your beliefs, really define your values, create that vision statement, and walk you through that whole thing. So that way, at the end of the 90 days, you're like, okay, like I know what I'm doing. I feel great about it. I'm acting already. I'm already seeing the changes. And that's one-on-one with me. So like you
Cool.
talk to me, yeah, and we're just making sure that you get that shift that you're looking for and start to see the changes.
Oh, that'll be huge.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great, man. So I want to, since you are in the financial world, I do want to just pick your brain or get your opinion on crypto. Have you done your homework on that? Have you seen because I know you're into real estate doing the 1031. Have you seen the NFTs being tied to actual physical real estate? Have you dipped your toes in that world yet?
Sadly, no.
No. Okay.
So not that creative. When it comes to the finance, I'm still licensed.
Yeah.
So it's very structured and regulated on what I can and can't do.
Sure.
So yeah, there's no crypto, no NFTs for me.
Okay. Yeah.
But I know a lot of people that are making a lot of money with them. So
yeah, it's
some
going to be
people seem to be
interesting.
working.
It'll be interesting how it plays out for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome, Ken. Well, let everybody know where they can find you. And I'm going to put it in the show notes, but just let everybody know where they can go to find the course, get the book, find out a little more info on you.
Yeah. So kenkladouris.com. That's KenKladouris. That'll have links to the webs or to the course, to the articles we write, everything like that. There's a ton of content there. But if you're looking just for the course, stillnesstosuccess.com. We have a free download there to help people on their journey to get started creating stillness in their life, and then also shares kind of my perspective on my first week of silence as well, which was an interesting one, kind of as I talked about earlier, right? Because it was so loud and so noisy for the first half of it, and yet it was such a transformational experience that I've done it every year since. So all of that's available at stillnesstosuccess.com.
Cool. Yeah, I know you have a few videos on your YouTube channel. I was watching, I think it was maybe 6 months or a year ago when you were in Sedona doing, I think, a 4-day silent retreat or something. But it's interesting. I always like hearing the perspective right after you do those types of things, because that's when it's all fresh on your brain. So I'll leave you with this last question. I know you mentioned that the 5-day silent retreat is like the biggest thing that impacted you. And I know you want to have your own. Is there anything on the calendar for that coming up?
Not yet. It's still to be determined, but it will be soon.
Awesome.
I wanted to get the group coaching rolled out and making sure we were doing that first. But yeah, no, as you know, I definitely want to start hosting 5-day silent retreats, and it definitely will happen soon.
You have an area or a state or a country that you would possibly consider?
I'm open for anything. So if any listeners have a great place where they're like, oh, this is where the silent retreat should be, shoot me an email, and I'd love to look at it.
Sweet. Well, I'm moving to Santa Marta, Colombia at the beginning of next year. It's this beautiful place right on the beach. So I'll let you know if it's like a good place that we can just zen out and enjoy.
I like it. You let me know.
Yeah, man. Well, Ken, I really appreciate you taking the time to hopping on here. Everybody, please go check out Ken's course, his book, hit the subscribe button on his YouTube channel. And I really appreciate it, Ken. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. It was a pleasure.
I'll talk soon. Bye-bye.